My name is Daniel Dazi. Let's take you straight back to the Kempinski Gold Coast City Hotel here in Accra, where the SDG High-Level Africa Roundtable is ongoing. Stay tuned in.
Let me first commend you, President Akufo-Addo, for your personal engagement, for initiating and hosting this high-level African roundtable on the SDGs. As your partner in co-chairing the UN Secretary-General's group of SDG advocates, I consider your initiative extremely important and timely. I am pleased that our two countries have worked together to facilitate this important event. And let me also take this opportunity to highlight what an invaluable partner the UNDP is in this process. The Sustainable Development Goals are by far the most ambitious, but also the most necessary sets of global goals in human history.
We'll take you back to the Kempinski Gold Coast City Hotel here in Accra later in the bulletin for the very latest on this particular program. But in the meantime, let's talk about what is happening in the Eastern region, because the Eastern Regional Health Directorate has mounted surveillance to check the spread of a reported case of meningitis that killed a second-year student of Koforidua Senior High Technical School. This comes after a student died Friday morning at the regional government hospital from meningitis. Sources in the school indicate that the deceased continued to complain to his friends of severe fever and body weaknesses about a week ago after he took part in the school's 50th anniversary float, but his condition worsened and later complained of a stiff neck. Let's hear the regional director of the Ghana Health Services in that part of the country.
Weekend, that's on Thursday, we got information about a case from Septec that had been sent to the regional hospital, and I think they were suspecting meningitis. The doctor in charge who received the case took all the necessary investigations, including a lumbar puncture, and necessary investigations were carried out, whilst the 15-year-old boy was also, put on treatment. I must say, yes, he passed off the following day in the early hours of the morning, that is on the 8th. He was admitted late on the 7th and passed on the 8th. But then the results that came out showed that, yes, it was positive for meningitis. So immediately the Regional Health Directorate as well as the New Jabe District Health Directorate were all informed, and a team was immediately dispatched to the school. In the school, they met the assistant headmaster and some teachers as well as students, and to, repeat that it's not an outbreak of meningitis. Yes, it is positive and a case of meningitis, which it has been treated the way it should be. But then this doesn't mean it's an outbreak. I must say that throughout the year, occasionally there are cases of meningitis which we treat. Yes, and I must say majority of them, are healed and recover. It's very unfortunate that our young boy couldn't make it, but then we've put in all the necessary things to ensure that such a thing doesn't happen again. The school is also being supported to revamp its infirmary, because it's one of the things that we
That was Charity Sapong, the Eastern Regional Director of the Ghana Health Service. Now let's go back to the Kempinski Gold Coast City Hotel, where President Akufo-Addo has taken his turn at the podium at the High-Level Africa Roundtable on Sustainable Development Goals.
Fellow Ghanaians, ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to welcome all of you to the Africa Roundtable event on the 2030 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. I'm particularly grateful for the presence of the much respected President of the Republic of Rwanda, His Excellency Paul Kagame, the newly elected Chairperson of the African Union Commission, His Excellency Musa Faki Mohammed, my fellow SDG advocates, the world-acclaimed economist, Professor Jeffrey Sachs, the Liberian Nobel laureate, Ms. Lema Gbowe, and the eloquent Libyan voice of women, Ms. Ala Murabit, and all others from near and far who have come to join us today to participate in this event. Akwaba, as you've already heard, is our word of welcome, and I hope you enjoyed the famed Ghanaian hospitality during your brief stay with us. I also welcome the video message from the co-chair of the advocate groups of eminent persons of the SDGs, the Norwegian Prime Minister, Madam Erna Solberg, which should help bolster the prospects of success of this event. The United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, and the government of Norway, who have partnered with us for this event, are to be commended. The SDGs are a common cause for a common goal, and I'm glad that we are forging a strong partnership around their implementation. This roundtable is taking place at another time of great hope and great expectations for our African continent. Democracy continues to gain deep roots. Some of our economies continue to register robust and sustained growth. Our continent continues to be blessed with a dynamic and youthful population, some of whom are well anchored in technology and innovation. And whether in the arts, sports, academia, business, or international relations, Africa is regaining her self-confidence on the international stage. Across the globe, there's an increasing interest in the phenomenal economic potential that exists on the continent. But it is not all a good news story, and herein lies the paradox. There are justifiably pressing demands to address widespread unemployment, especially amongst the youth, to enhance livelihood incomes and opportunities, to intensify and deepen social service delivery, and to deal with the sense of hopelessness in the future that compels large numbers of Africa's youth to travel across the Sahara Desert and traverse perilous oceans in search of what in most cases proves to be an elusive better life in the developed world. As we endeavor to address these challenges and the huge expectations that citizens have, we have great prospects in using the SDGs to open up opportunities for all citizens and do so in ways that leave no one behind. As co-chair of the UN Secretary General's eminent group of advocates, I have a high responsibility, together with my colleagues, to promote the engagement of new stakeholders in the implementation and financing of the SDGs, and to encourage partnerships with government, civil society, and the private sector to drive accelerated implementation of the SDGs. This is the spirit that has shaped this Africa Roundtable, and I strongly hope that this spirit will become enduring. We have an exceptional opportunity going forward in translating the extraordinary goals enshrined in the SDGs to end poverty, protect the planet, and secure prosperity. There are many reasons that make me optimistic about the future, but perhaps the single most important one is that increasingly Agenda 2030 is no longer seen as someone else's agenda. The extraordinary efforts and actions required to achieve the SDGs are beginning to coalesce in the partnerships that we're building across national governments, civil society, and the private sector. Importantly, As co-chair of the UN Secretary General's eminent group of advocates, I've taken the strategic decision to prioritize championing accelerated implementation of the goals in Africa. I'm compelled to do this because, sadly, the deficit in human development is highest on our continent. If we are to succeed in our noble ambition to transform our continent and pull masses of our people out of poverty and deprivation, Africa must pursue implementation of the SDGs with a strong sense of urgency and an unparalleled commitment to act now. We do not have the luxury of time when it comes to the pressing challenges of poverty, climate change, youth unemployment, and the myriad of issues that confront the continent. The challenge in achieving the SDGs is indeed significant, but I have ample cause for optimism. Africa has the knowledge, the talent, and the resources to transition from poverty to prosperity. But for this to happen, it takes a different kind of leadership, one that is selfless and empowering. It will take smart and progressive policies that are enablers to growth and transformation. It will take innovative approaches to financing our development. It will take smart strategic partnerships. It will take fully unleashing the potential of the domestic private sector. It will take fully leveraging innovation and making it the currency of our development. And most importantly, it will take empowerment of Africa's women. I'm delighted to see that these enablers necessary to achieving the SDGs are the core issues that will be addressed and discussed over the next 2 days. And as we discuss these issues, we must see the SDGs truly as investment in our people to build a better life. For no group of persons has more to gain from the successful implementation of the SDGs than the African peoples. As we jointly embark on the implementation of the SDGs, I would like to leave you with 5 key messages. First, to achieve the SDGs will take bold ambition in thought and actions, creativity, innovation, hard work, and most critically, connecting to the positive and abundant energies of the youth. Second, the story of Africa's hitherto inability to develop is primarily the story of bad governance and our damaging colonial heritage. We must make governance and our governance systems work for the eradication of poverty and the creation of prosperity and wealth. And as we embark on this path, we must commit to building accountable and transparent institutions. Third, we cannot grow out of poverty and achieve the SDGs through charity and the benevolence of others. If we are going to succeed to move Africa beyond aid, this cannot be a mere slogan. It will take doing business differently and making the tough choices necessary to accelerate inclusive growth in the economy. Fourth, there's no doubt in my mind that a key accelerator to achieving the goals is a strong and vibrant private sector, which has the space to grow and flourish. We must and should do everything in our power to dismantle the labyrinth of constraints that impede the private sector and regional trade and integration. Fifth, for our continent to achieve the SDGs and capture totally our grandeur, we must succeed in fully unleashing the potential of Africa's women. This is an absolute priority for me, as it should be for one privileged to be labeled the Africa Union Gender Champion. No matter what the challenges may be, We must use the SDGs to propel Africa beyond aid. We must use the SDGs ultimately to change the narrative on Africa. And we can. I absolutely believe this. The road ahead may be long, with bumps along the way, but if we have a winning mentality and commit to doing business differently, we can achieve our shared prosperity and bring greater dignity to the lives of millions and millions of people in this our common home which we call Africa. I thank you, and may God bless us all and Mother Africa.
President Akufo-Addo there ending his speech on the importance of implementing SDGs and for nations to take it seriously on 5 major points. Number 3 of that points being what, well, I should say number 3 of that points being what he has been touting over a few months, being moving Africa beyond aid, expanding his vision from Ghana beyond aid to Africa beyond aid. Of course, he also made a point ending there about the need to include women in this plan of implementing SDGs, him being the African Union's gender champion. So following that narrative, there are a number of very important points he raised. Of course, he talked about how bad governance and the colonial heritage of Africans has contributed to Africa being where it is, and the need to invest not only in good governance principles but also in strong institutions as part of this investment into the SDGs. Innovation being a currency is also a point that he also made. Now, we'll be doing more analysis of what the president has said. President Kagame of Rwanda has said, of course, the Norwegian Prime Minister who was speaking earlier, and all the other thoughts that will come up in this high-level Africa roundtable. Let's move on to other issues now. And bereaved families of the 4 students who died at the Kumasi Academy from swine flu are disputing the autopsy reports presented by health officials. The parents say they have a different report showing different results. Love FM's Ohiming Terrier has been speaking to the family of the deceased students and sent in this.
Asam na mo ka kire no mo pass no mo me ebukura because akra onyare akra ne be fie adwada oba na mo wa Addo atwa ne mo maso.
We are extremely angry. What are the authorities trying to tell us? We are confused. My child came home and looked very healthy. We were only told he had died when he returned to school. My child didn't look dead when I saw the lifeless body. Why didn't they tell us he was unwell?
Something. I know around 3 something. Take parents nyanya we mo frɛ ba na so mo frɛ ba na owu enti me cost na me bra na yere kokot kwaje order yi ana me ko mochiri ho
enti me ko ye no na teacher ni busa mamane na me bo amane timba ma na so maintenance na doctor wo hwe akwala na enti maintenance na e kakra ti me betena ase te kakra na me san bisa no so mentwen te kakra no se me mfrɛ.
One of the teachers called me to say my child was unwell. I came to the school and had to wait for the teachers to tell me why they wanted to see me. They kept asking me questions about my son.
My friend na okache me say mentwen kakra na o ma ye business school me to beba na yakọ ti mentwen wo mo na metena ase ti e bo be 9:30 to 10 mo sana teachers no wo mo ba tompa ya na me say me ni house master ni ti no mu si ye na na me hu say wo mo na eba na mo ye 5 e na o mo ba yi tomba e na ni hu o ma na me so le chia wo mo no bi na me say ma hu ni na me so me ba na Felix Esiama.
More on this in later bulletins. Now, the Gender Ministry is empowering parents and children, especially girls, to report cases on abuses to the police and the institutions mandated to handle such issues for proper redress. Speaking at the last day of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence at Asin and Addo in the central region, the sector minister, Otiko Afisa-Jaba, called on parents to be extra vigilant and exhibit special care in nurturing their girl child. Otiko Afisa-Jaba also condemned the increasing rate of children being accused of witchcraft and being exposed on live television by some pastors. Richard Kojo-Yako has more.
The 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, a global crusade that was started on November 25 with marches, fora, and radio and TV programs to sensitize the general public against gender-based violence. The last day, which fell on Sunday, the 10th of December, was held at Addo, a town very close to where a 4-year-old girl was allegedly defiled by a 17-year-old boy that caused a groundswell of anger throughout the country.
Boys should not impregnate girls. Men should not impregnate girls. Teenage pregnancy should be a thing of the past. Child labor should be a thing of the past. Female genital mutilation should be a thing of the past. Child prostitution should be a thing of the past. Defilement, rape, assault should all be things of the past. Child marriage should be...
Gender Minister Otiku Afisa Jaba asking parents to guard zealously the pride of their girl child. She wants parents, traditional authorities, teachers, and other persons in communities to make every child abuse count by reporting the matter to the appropriate quarters for redress.
As soon as there is a crime against, whether it's a child or an adult, the first point of call is to report to the police. And then the social workers will come in. And then justice will take its course through the court system. As issues are being reported, and with social media and new technology, you can see that increasingly there's more reporting on these abuses. And the agitation is that we are not happy with all the abuses. So together, the laws must now be reinterpreted in the dialects, because not everybody can read English. So that is something that we are going to bring on board next year, to have all the laws and policies translated into the local dialects in voice.
Now, police officers are going through the process to put before court the suspects involved in the stabbing of a member of the Old Vandals Association. A visit to the crime scene this morning revealed the stains of blood had been cleaned after some police officers visited the place yesterday. Authorities of the hall say they are also working to ascertain the veracity of the claim that the suspect is a former member of the hall. It is still unclear what the suspect and the deceased were arguing over, but some former students of the University of Ghana have condemned the act, saying intellectual arguments should not lead to violence. Members of the Old Vandals Association had returned from the funeral of one of their colleagues when an argument between the two people led to the stabbing of one of their members.
It's unfortunate. It's an act that needs to be condemned. As I said earlier, there's no justification for it. I don't think that's an argument. I don't know what kind of argument it was, but I don't think there's an argument in this world that will lead someone to stabbing the other. When we were on campus as students, we used to engage in a lot of heated arguments, political issues, ethnic lines, sports. We did all those things. We could engage in about 3-4 hours of arguments. And then what we are hearing from Fafraha to Legon is no more than 2 hours. So you don't expect any one of them to stab the other. And I don't know what kind of argument it really was. But even if it's an argument that can lead to destruction, there is no room for stabbing, and this act needs to be condemned. It's very sad it happened to a former Commonwealth member. It can happen to anybody. So I think as a Ghanaian and to the larger Ghanaian community, we should be able to tolerate each other's view. No matter how dissenting it is, we should be able to tolerate it.
Okay, great. It's sad. It's sad. When I heard the news, I was very surprised. I didn't want to believe it was true, but then who are we? It happens, which is unfortunate. Like we said, it should never be repeated. We condemn it. Everyone condemns it. I've spoken to very close friends in Commonwealth Hall. They are disgusted about the issue. Like I said, this is not what they say vandalism is about. Coming from a part in the school where we think common sense should rule, I think in all our dealings we should let common sense judge us. That's the university, it's an intellectual community. So when we are doing things, we should do things with utmost intelligence and in the fullness of wisdom.
As you're watching Joy News today, my name is Daniel Dazi. So far, we've told you about how authorities of the Ghana Health Service in the Eastern region have intensified surveillance at the Koforidua Senior High Technical School after one student died from meningitis on Friday. You need to stay with us because we'll be delving into this issue of the relocation of the capital of Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, according to Donald Trump, President of the United States. We'll tell you what it means for you living in Ghana and you, of course, a diasporan of Ghana after this. Thanks for staying with us. Now, Ghana seems to be in an international dilemma as the Foreign Affairs Ministry was forced to counter statements made by Speaker of Parliament, Reverend Professor Michael Quay earlier. The nation's position on the capital of Israel being moved from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem has been called into question as Professor Michael Quay expressed support for the relocation of the capital. Last week, President Donald Trump of the United States announced that his administration would recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and would move the U.S. embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. This move has been met with near worldwide condemnation since Palestinians also view Jerusalem, which is in the West Bank, as the capital of their future state. The West Bank is currently under military occupation by the State of Israel, and moves such as this are viewed as illegal and damaging to the peace process. Here to discuss this issue further is Mohammed Mahama, who works in international relations. Mohammed, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So first of all, we're in Ghana. Israel is thousands of miles away. Why should this issue matter to us?
It should matter because it's one of the world's long-standing intractable conflicts. This has been happening since the 40s. And even though right now it has more geopolitical elements into it, it also has a strong religious element as well. Strong religious element as well. The status of Jerusalem and who has access to it affects Jews, Christians, and Muslims alike. Right.
So how is the president's decision going to affect Christians or Muslims or Jews?
Currently, the Trump administration's declaration is only so far directing the movement of the U.S. embassy there and recognizing it. What it's done so far is that it's delegitimizing the U.S. itself as a mediator in the process, the peace process.
Mm-hmm. Right, which means that, well, earlier, like you were saying earlier, we had the U.S. in the middle trying to look at a two-state solution to this whole issue, and now the U.S. no longer has that position. But the Reverend Professor Michael Quay has been speaking about this particular issue. He has expressed support for that. Why do you think he did that?
I think he expressed support for that because Ghana and Israel, or should I say, the African continent and Israel have recently been having stronger relations, stronger economic relations and stronger diplomatic relations. Professor Quay was in Israel for the Power Africa Summit, which is an initiative that's supposed to help power infrastructure in Africa. So he was saying it he was making those comments to one, to probably placate his hosts, and two, in recognition of the new role that Israel is playing in Africa's development.
And also, well, he's a Christian, he's a reverend.
That as well.
So it could also play into,
exactly,
like you're saying, the religious implications of this particular decision. Now, we've had the Foreign Affairs Ministry have to come and make a statement. Why was it so important for the Foreign Affairs Ministry to come and make that clear, emphatic statements that they do not support this particular decision by Donald Trump?
Ghana's position over the last couple of decades has been that the Israeli-Palestinian conflict has to be resolved by Israel and Palestine. And the government of Ghana does not support any unilateral outside action into this issue. So the government of Ghana would support the Israelis and the Palestinians coming together to decide the fate of Jerusalem.
So sort of just reinforcing that position we've always had.
Yes.
So you are talking about how Reverend Professor Michael Quay may have been trying to placate his hosts there. The Power Africa Compact is a big deal for us here, especially looking at the challenges we have in our energy sector. Do you think that this relationship we have with Israel could influence this position that Ghana as a country has had over the years?
So far, Ghana seems to be resisting any kind of soft power that Israel could be pushing. But it must be said that other African countries are slowly beginning to revise their position. A lot of African countries initially had a very anti-colonialist view of Israel since the way modern-day Israel was founded. But slowly you can see countries like Tanzania also slowly coming out and supporting the state of Israel and its claims.
Right, so that could change sometime.
That could change as well.
Right, thank you very much, Mohammed Mahama, for sharing your thoughts there on this international issue. And that's it for today's Bulletin of Joy News Today. I am Daniel Dazi. Thanks for joining us. For more news, log on to myjoyonline.com.